Dean, the floor is yours.
All right, as you know,
Hold it, do we have to do the flag now?
Oh, sure, okay, good idea. Okay, wait a minute. Okay, so let's get on television so we can, thank you, Dick. Thank you. Okay, this is the October 24th, 2018 meeting of the Laconia Conservation Commission. I'm Dean Anson.
Deb Williams?
Lisa Moran.
Marty Schultz?
Dick Christopher?
Evan Rathburn, staff technician.
Dean Trefethan, planning director.
Okay, we'll start off by pledging allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you. Okay. Okay. Dean, the floor is yours.
All right, thank you. As you know, we've had the ongoing application with Mr. Holmesy on Woodvale Drive with the lot that he purchased, merged, the two lots he purchased, merged them together, and then started clearing and filling in what used to be Lot 4. And as you know, most of that lot is within the 50-foot buffer from the wetland. And we have had him before TRC a couple of times. He's been before the planning board a couple of times. I think we finally got through to him over the course of the next month about getting a professional plan done. So let me if everyone could just take one of these and pass it on. This is his latest. I will be blunt and say that it is a better plan than what we had before, but it by no means addresses all of the concerns that collectively we have all expressed about this property. But I think it is a step in the right direction. So let me just kind of go through it. So if you go to the second page, you have what he's proposing is a 10-foot setback from the actual wetland, and which would be kind of the crosshatched area, the crosshatch area that you're seeing. That would be the 10-foot buffer. And then he's proposing 2 feet of a slight slope, and then the retaining wall. And then on the other side of the retaining wall, he would have, probably including the width of the retaining wall, he would have 4 feet to basically what he's calling an interceptor drainage trench, and he has the detail there in the lower left corner there. So it's basically crushed stone, 2.5 feet deep, with a perforated pipe in the middle of it. And the perforated pipe, to my understanding, is going to be run around to go to the wetland that is primarily on what used to be Lot 5. So the right-hand side of the lot, or in the drawing, the above wetland. The other thing that he and I have talked about, which is not represented on this plot, on this plan, but would be part of any conditional approval, is that he is willing to do some planting of vegetation along the front of the property to try to screen the property a little bit better from Woodvale Drive. Won't be a complete across, because he's still going to maintain a driveway to get in and out of there, but it would be a little bit denser vegetation along the street that would try to hide the property a little bit more. I've also impressed upon him that anything else that he wants to do on the property in the future would require additional conditional use permits, whether he wanted to do any more grading, whether he wanted to build a structure, paving, whatever. He would have to get an additional CUP, and he maintains he understands that. Whether he does or really, that's another matter. It's been difficult to get through to him sometimes on what is important, but I think we're finally there. So I think given the circumstances, and we back up to the spring, this property just, I mean, quite frankly, just got away from us. It was, you know, he called and asked if he could do some brush clearing, and at the time, we did not realize that for all intents and purposes, all of the lot is within the buffer. And then we started to get a couple of phone calls from people in the area about some dirt being dumped out there. And by the time we get out there, he'd already dumped a whole bunch of dirt and started grading it. So it was just one of those things that, in hindsight, we might have been able to handle a little bit better, but it happened pretty quickly, and it was just one of those things that got away from us. So given all the circumstances that has occurred, my opinion is this is probably the best plan that we could hope for under the circumstances, and so I wanted to give you guys a shot at it. I'm willing to take any comments, feedback. I'm willing to, you know, translate that back to the planning board or make it part of any conditions that you may have. I'm not looking for you to guys to necessarily formalize that tonight, although if we did, that would be great just for a timing standpoint. But I will say, just for, you know, to give you the complete picture, one other thing, I did have a conversation with Brian Bailey, who is his surveyor, to ask him about the drainage plan, because that was one of the things that the planning board had asked, is this drainage plan where he's gonna have this like drainage trench, does that adequately address things? And in Brian's opinion, he's just giving me basically a one-sentence answer, but in his opinion, that it does what's necessary for the property. The way the property is now, it's pretty level. You're not gonna have runoff to any degree except for right at the edges. And once he installs the retaining walls and the drainage trench, I mean, I really don't think you'd have any erosion. I really don't think you'd have any runoff from the site. The two wetlands, both the one right and left, do not have any outlets. They're just basically low spots in the ground. They are very full of water in the spring. Right now, they have almost no water in them. Even though we've had a lot of rain the past month, they've got almost no water in them, so.
One in the back has no water?
No. I mean, it's a little bit way off in the center, but it's not. And there's a little bit, yeah, it's a little bit in the upper one that was on Lot 5. There's a little bit in there right in the center of what would have been the pond in the springtime, but it's, so between evaporation and infiltration, it kind of takes care of itself over the course of the year. Obviously, there is some benefit of those wetlands to various wildlife, but it's not, the water's not going anywhere. It's not feeding anything, or, you know, so anything like that. So, so I think that's the complete picture. I will tell you, just so that you're aware, given this plan and the statement of the engineer that he believes the drainage will suffice, the drainage plan will suffice, my suspicion would be that the planning board is probably going to approve it. But, I mean, I can't speak for them, and you know, never say never, but we certainly can impose any conditions that you might want to impose. And I did want to talk to you about one of them, the memo that Evan wrote in September concerning this was to say that the drainage from Lot 4 must stay on Lot 4. Right now, their plan is to create that trench with the pipe in it, and I think some of it's going to end up on Lot 5, but it's all one lot now. He owns both. He's officially merged them together. So I don't see that there's a whole lot of advantage to requiring that to occur. The water's going to stay on his property. I think that's the important thing.
Do you need us to take a vote of some kind, or?
No, it's up to you. I mean, however you want to handle it. I mean, I think it's, you know, I just wanted to give you the information and the update of where we were and try to be as honest and upfront as possible about what I think the outcome is going to be.
We had talked about setting a precedent regarding the 50-foot buffer zone. So, you know, what happens regarding that, next guy comes along and wants to impinge on the 50-foot zone.
Well, I hear you, and I think, you know, it's a legitimate concern. I mean, we get a lot of, in the course of the year or over the years, we get a lot of requests for CUPs to go into the buffer area. This is certainly not the first property to go into the buffer. You know, we had another one just, I think that you guys looked at last month on Eastman, Layton South. You know, they're gonna be, when they're done, they're gonna be 9 feet from the wetland. So they'll be 41 feet into the buffer. But, I mean, they're 2.5 feet now, so it's better, you know. So I hear you concerning the precedent, but I really think that each application has to stand on its own, and each property is unique, and there are circumstances for each property that can guide you one way or the other. And, you know, if obviously, if he came in without doing any fill work at all here and asked us to do something and went through the process the right way, we hope, you know, hopefully and maybe we'd have a different outcome, but that's not reality.
Is the buffer zone for that lot within the wall area, within that wall area, is the buffer zone gonna be demolished, I mean, not demolished, but changed to the walls?
Yeah, I mean, basically, everything inside of the retaining wall that he's depicting here is it's filled now.
It won't be within a buffer zone then? Which, the stuff that's in the walls, this fill area,
Yeah.
it will not be, at some future point, not within a buffer zone. Is that right?
It's,
Right now, there's 2 buffer zones. They overlap like this.
Correct. Right.
And so, by doing this, does that do away with that buffer zone that was previously shown on both sides? And there is no buffer zone other than limits of the wall area.
Right.
Is that what's gonna happen?
No, the CUP that he's applied for now will give him the permission to keep the fill basically where it is right now.
He's gonna have
Build the retaining walls and build the drainage trench. The 50-foot buffers still exist, would still exist on this property. And and they still overlap. And that's why I said that if he wants to do anything further to this property, anything, he needs an additional conditional use process. He'd have to go through the process
We know
again.
what he wants to do eventually, that's the thing, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he has told us that his long-term plans, and I don't know if that's 1 year or whether it's 10 years, but his long-term plans is to build some type of a structure on it, primarily a garage with maybe some living space above it. That's his, and, I mean, there is, there's city water out there. They're talking about putting sewer on Woodvale Drive. There's no sewer now. I don't think that he could do a structure that has living quarters in it before they put in the sewer, because I just don't see any opportunity here
Away
for
from
a septic system.
there.
Right,
I don't think DES's subsurface bureau would
Right.
like him, he's too close to wetlands.
yeah.
When he came to you and said he'd like to remove some brush, is that just a verbal, or do they need to submit a plan? Or not a plan, but a written one-pager that this is what I intend to do?
It's up to the applicant to do their due diligence and look before they cut anything. If they cut anything and I catch them, that's when I hit them with a violation and they have to come into us. But
So where I'm going with this is he expressed he wanted to cut brush, and you arrived and he had dumped all kinds of things and regraded. And I'm wondering if that doesn't trigger some sort of fine system. I'm stepping up, maybe I'm stepping over the line a little bit, but being concerned for the city that this guy basically thumbed his nose at you and is doing what he wants to
This
do
was part of my,
without
my,
any consequence.
for lack of a better word, inexperience at the time,
I'm-
because I had just started.
Yeah, no,
I told him, he called, I told him over the phone, if you mark the buffers, make sure you're not going to cut into those, you will be able to stay out of those.
right.
He said, okay, I'll go do that.
Right. I would fall on your sword on this, Evan, because he said he wanted to cut some brush. And he clearly went over that boundary. I'm not gonna belabor it tonight. I'm just thinking, that's where I'm coming from.
Yeah, I have pictures. I told him to mark the buffers. He did not mark the buffers. When I visited the site after they cut it, what I thought out there was the buffer markings, was not actually the buffer markings, because I said the exact same thing to him when he wanted to put fill in. As long as you stay out of the buffer, you're okay. When they went out there, he had not marked the buffers at all.
So regardless of what happens with this, will he be subject to a fine?
Well, the way we do this is when we know it's happening, we send him a violation letter, and then we always give the applicants an opportunity to make it right, and so he said, okay, what do I gotta do? He said, well, you gotta get a conditional use permit. So, I mean, while he's filling out the paperwork, I mean, he's still working out there, and then we finally got to a point where we could sit down and talk with him, and we told him point blank, you gotta stop. This is it. You can't do anything else out there. And he hasn't since that time, but there was a period of time there where this is what you gotta do to get conformity, and he was still, full speed ahead, so.
So my question still stands, is he
Right.
going to be subject to a fine?
Technically, yes, from a standpoint of if we wanted to pursue it, we would have to take him to court, and the court could impose a fine. Given the circumstances, I don't see the court doing that. It's just not gonna. We don't have the power to impose a fine ourselves. I mean, we do the violation letter, and then if we don't get any kind of response, or we don't get the response that we're looking for, we'll take them to court to get enforcement. And I just never say never, but I just don't think that it would be,
Losing proposition to do that?
Yeah, I mean, we'd spend money on legal fees, and the judge would say, hey, it's already happened, and he's giving you a plan to do whatever. It's a very unfortunate situation, and, part of what Evan went through, and we went through, Brandy and I went through with him as well, was his complete lack of understanding of terms and how they really worked. And, Evan's talking about buffers, and he's thinking of the actual wetland, and so therefore he's out there, well, here's the edge of the water, as long as I'm not on the edge of the water, I'm okay, and, those kinds of things. And so he he took advantage, and I don't know, and we probably never will know whether it was truly lack of, understanding, or whether he played us, or whether it's somewhere in the middle, a little bit of both, I don't know, but,
Well, at least it wasn't, I mean, it's, all wetlands are sensitive, but it wasn't the most precious of wetlands that we would want to conserve, I guess, so.
So I have two other comments. One is, I think this drawing lacks a indication of what these things stand for. So we need some sort of a drawing that shows that this is, aside from the small print with arrows going all over the place, it would be nice to have some sort of a,
Key.
yeah, a key that would, show us what this meant. Because there's,
well,
and then, and I didn't see it on the first page either. Oops, sorry.
well, if you go to the first page, which is the quote, existing conditions, meaning prior to May conditions. The little tick marks, the little squares with the X in the middle of them, which are labeled C and a number after them, and also B. So C up top and then B down below. Those are the actual wetland delineation marks.
After he filled.
No.
No,
No,
before any.
those are the actual,
Oh, those are the edges of the wetland.
of the
Not the
wetland.
buffer. Okay,
Right,
okay,
correct.
Okay.
Right. Those are and so when you go, then you go to the second sheet, those same tick marks are there. And so he is close, but he is not in the actual wetland, so therefore there's no DES violation. And DES has looked at the property and they
have.
agree there's no violation.
Okay,
He's obviously in violation of our buffer rules, no question. And so you have the hash mark, which is gonna be that basically a 10-foot, his observance of the 10-foot buffer, a 10-foot buffer, out of 20% out of the full buffer, but, and then he'll have his retaining wall, and then 4 feet from that is the drainage trench.
okay, so I don't see where the drainage trench exits so that it will dump into,
like it goes
the
to the street.
old, lot 5.
Yeah,
I see it, I see a U-shaped trench that goes
Right.
around.
right.
Yeah, I know, but that-
I thought I had saw that.
I mean, looking at that, it looks like it's gonna empty to the street.
Oh, yeah, no, here, it's right over here. It's in
it's in lot 5, it says interceptor trench,
that's, yep,
outfall.
that little arrow that goes down to a dash line that goes from the trench to the edge of the wetland. That's
Okay,
where
and then
that's
there's
going.
another one to the,
Yes, there's another, yes, you're right,
northwest of
yes,
that.
there is, I didn't notice that one before, yes, there is, there's another one.
and then there's another one over here, and the southwestern,
Oh, yeah.
southwest, there's another one.
Yeah,
That
and
is
then
dumping
and then there's another
into-
one, yeah, so there's basically the
Right
4
into the road.
corners.
But it's dumping, that one's dumping into lot, actually off his lot.
Yeah, the wetland is partially on his lot. The next lot down is no man's land. Nobody owns that piece of property, apparently.
Like this used to be.
The west,
Yeah,
southwest? or-
Southwest, right. Yeah.
Okay, so, all
They
right,
subdivided this, when they made this subdivision a long time ago, they recognized that there was a wetland there, and so therefore they kind of basically drew a lot around it and never signed it to anybody.
okay.
So-
So my other concern is, given the time of year that the wetlands were surveyed, there was no, if this wetland survey had been done in the spring, the survey may have shown that these two, the wetlands on Old Lot 5 and Old Lot 4, were really vernal pools. And
Potentially.
we can't,
We don't know. Right.
if we went back in the spring and did that, then we would know whether they were vernal pools.
Right.
And before anything was put in there,
Right.
I believe they were attached probably too.
Um,
Maybe in the back at least.
They were not, because that trench, because of, I went out.
yeah, the slope of the land, there was
slopes
done,
upwards, and
Right.
the water wouldn't been able to
Yeah.
go anywhere. Those two were constantly.
I mean, if you
unconnected.
had, you know, maybe a very high snow
Right.
winter and a real quick melt, you know, maybe the two would fill up in potential. But there was a natural ridge in the land,
Okay.
kind of between the two of them that kept them separated. So Evan and I were out there end of May, middle of May maybe. And the water was pretty close to where they've delineated, within a foot or two.
Of the
So, I mean, so y-
wetland boundary.
Yeah, so your comment that if you went out in May, would the wetland edge may be different, or would it be a vernal pool? Those are certainly possibilities, but I think this is a fairly accurate representation of the wetland edge.
When were we
Well,
out there? Were we
yeah.
out there in July?
Yeah, we were out there in July,
July?
in the middle of a,
Monsoon.
monsoon.
Yeah, and the water had receded a little bit.
There were ducks.
There were, oh yeah,
Ducks, sorry.
Well, okay, so I talked to Jessica Bailey and asked her if there was a possibility these were vernal pools. And what she said was, she didn't know because she did not sample for vernal pools. The time they were doing the wetland delineation was not the time that you would be looking for vernal pools, because it was too late in the
correct.
season.
Yeah,
But
it was.
when the
and
neighbor that came and complained said that there are always frogs, that's, they're in the pond.
Yep,
That doesn't make it a vernal pool, but who knows?
right.
Okay, so I think one of the things we need to do is tell him that he will not put a building on this site without going to get another CUP.
Right,
And if he does put a building on this site, he will have to remove it. And then he will have to come back and get a CUP. So he can start constructing it, but he'll have to tear it down and start from scratch. He will not be able to live on this site without a connection to the sewer or a Porto sand, right? He will, he can't put a cesspool in?
no, I don't believe the soil underneath there would support that.
No,
No.
no.
That in the vicinity to those two wetlands, DES would raise questions
Yeah,
about contamination if anything ever busted.
yeah.
So
I would suspect the water table there
it's pretty close to the surface.
is, yeah, pretty close to.
He gets down 2 feet, he may be in the water.
Yeah,
So he's not gonna be draining anything.
right,
He's gonna be,
right.
so, the other thing is, in the event that this doesn't work, the way he's planning on using the site, and he wants to move his stuff out of there, can we ask him to put it back the way it was before he brought all the fill in?
Oh, boy.
I guess you can ask. I think
No, no,
That might
I'm
be
sorry,
worse
I used the
than-
wrong,
I was gonna say, that
I
might-
think,
used
I
the
think I
wrong
know
word.
the answer, but.
Can we tell him to remove all the stuff that he put there?
But that might disturb more than.
Yeah,
one.
we might ask him to plant it, we might ask him
Right.
to leave it in a vegetated condition or
I was
something.
gonna say, yeah, at the most, you'd just either
Yeah.
let it go back
well, make him pay to plant it so that it.
Yeah, I mean, you could
more-
put some plantings in that are,
Restabilize it with
Okay,
grass, things like
okay.
that.
and that was one of the things I wanted to ask you, that little strip that he's gonna have between the retaining wall and the drainage trench, whether you thought there might be any value to any type of planting. I mean, he's
Always.
gonna capture,
Always.
he's gonna capture in that drainage trench anything that's headed that way, but
It's
It-
always good. It can't be bad
Do you
if
wanna
you
make
plant.
recommendations?
I mean, well, I would recommend he not do it. I'm very concerned that when he puts in the retaining wall, that, you know, he's going to be messing even more with
yeah,
the,
it's delicate. I mean, one of the conditions will be that he's got to talk to Evan first before and
May
make
have to
sure that
camp
he's
out
got
there.
all his erosion control up correctly and everything before he does any work, yes.
Yeah, he's not, I'm adding him to my, while he's doing the work, he will be on my list of, sites to inspect every week.
Sounds like every day.
I can do it multiple times. I'm at my liberty to do as many inspections as I want while I'm out in the field. So, that, and he's gonna need to come to me first before, cause I have to give him a letter authorizing him to do any work in there. So I have to come out and see that everything is installed correctly. If it's not, then I'm not gonna sign off
right.
on anything.
Do you think that will make a difference?
He has a partner, and I don't know if, I've never met his partner. His partner may be more,
They just want to store, they want to store their toys there because they both live apparently
yeah.
near the water, by the bridge area, the
Mm-hmm.
governor's. And they had some boats and other stuff stored there. And I guess that's the primary objective right now, because they probably can't store their toys on their own property for whatever reason. Now, would this prohibit him from putting up a temporary, like Quonset hut structure, you know, steel frame and like a canvas or plastic thing?
No, it would not prohibit him from doing that, because that would not be considered a structure.
Okay,
If he permanently attaches it to the ground, you know, like with a foundation or puts a slab in or something like that, then that would be, but if he does it and puts a few stakes in the ground to hold it in place, then, yeah,
so
he
he
could.
could do that now to stick his toys under it.
Right, yeah.
I think, Evan, I'd like to,
I'm sorry, just as an aside, this is Wes Bates.
hi, Wes.
Hello,
Um,
everybody?
Hi.
This is Dick.
Right.
I'm Dean. This is
Deb.
Deb, Lisa, Marnie, and Dean, and Evan, I'm sorry.
Nice to meet you all.
Me too.
So we're looking at this, we have this man who wants to do something
That one right there.
that is
Flip
in
over.
violation,
Every,
is already in violation of the city ordinances, and now we're trying to figure out how to make this work so that we have a 50-foot buffer around wetlands, and the applicant wants to make it a 10-foot buffer because of the constraints of his site. And so we're trying to figure out a way to make sure that he stays within, I don't know, within what? I'm not exactly sure.
Well, we certainly want him to stay and conform to what he's presenting to us as his current plan.
Right.
And the CUP will bring him into conformance with, if he gets it, it will
Right.
bring him into conformity.
Evan, I would, if I could make the suggestion.
Yep.
That you keep a file, and I know you're gonna do this anyway,
Mhm.
but also keep in the back of your mind that maybe as a conservation commission, we might wanna host a workshop of different case studies in Laconia and how we would have wished they had gone differently or something. I'm just thinking as a conservation commission, that might be one of the outreach things we want to do. And so if you did take enough pictures that we could use that as an example, so,
Like,
no.
do it this way, not that way.
Well, or just talk about as a case study, this unfortunately was something that, you know, this is the way it happened, and our response to it was this, and this is why our response to it, and maybe enough pictures so that there's an understanding. Because I think there's probably 2 or 3 cases that we could actually end up using as then an outreach, because we've been talking about this off and on, about when people come to the Conservation Commission and they know what they want to do, and you just don't see their vision, and I mean, I just kind of think it might be at some point helpful in a year or so to have that kind of workshop.
Helping people to understand better what the Conservation Commission is trying to do when they give recommendations and things like that. They're
And-
they're
and
trying
may-
to find the middle ground.
And maybe the connections between the Conservation Commission, the Planning Board, the Planning Office. I mean, I'm just thinking down the road. Anyway, thank you for indulging me.
So I think that one of the things that would be helpful to managing the water on this site is plantings.
Okay.
So that's, you know, I think that that would help, but I think that his biggest problem in terms of trees, when I was there, I think he has filled the site to an extent that all the trees that are within this area
Gonna die.
are gonna die.
Mm-hmm.
So now what are we gonna do?
Probably.
What are we gonna do? And, you know, it's, you know, they're going to die. There's no way to stop it now. It's too long.
We brought that up, and he said he wasn't gonna cut anything.
Right, he said he's not gonna cut them, but
Pointed
when,
out that they're gonna die because he's filled all around them.
right, so the next step is gonna be that they're gonna die, and he's gonna come to us and say, you know, there's a risk to people who are on the site because the branches are gonna be falling off the trees.
We could have a note that say he's, even if the trees die, he can't remove the roots. They
Oh,
would have-
you have to, yeah, you can't take the stumps out.
He can,
Right.
he can grind it down
Right,
to grade level.
Right, but not to remove.
Yes, that's ultimately in buffers and things like that, that's what
Right.
that is my condition when people wanna cut in our
We don't-
buffers.
We don't know if it's a buffer anymore.
Well, the,
Well, technically, it's still in the buffer, but
I
I hear
know.
you, I hear you.
so I had a question about the drainage trench. So between the drainage trench and the wall, retaining wall, you said it's gonna grade down?
No, I think his intention is for it to either be level or, well, let's see.
And I can't tell what he proposed in between there. Was it just gonna be grass?
I think it's
or-
just gonna be gravel, yeah, or,
in that 10-foot area, it's just gonna be gravel?
no,
This
in between the,
Trench and the
Oh,
retaining
yeah,
wall.
yeah.
yeah.
I would suggest that it be vegetated and that the grade of the trench be lower than the retaining wall.
Have it pitch from the retaining wall to the
Correct.
trench? Okay, yep, okay.
I think that we should tell him that this drawing is not adequate, that needs to be revised, and it at least needs a key. And we need more details, just like Deb was suggesting.
It needs a cross-section of the retaining wall anyway.
I don't think we're gonna get that, but we can ask.
Why not?
Because
This is not a-
like his fifth set of drawings or whatever.
This is not an acceptable engineering drawing.
Tell that to the surveyor.
He doesn't care, does he?
No disagreement, and I'm not gonna argue the case. I think we're to the point that this is what we're gonna get.
We should be thankful we've gotten this much.
Quite possibly.
But I
There's no
think Deb's right, we need to know, you know, if we had a cross-section through that showed, is this buffer, is it going to be just what it is now? with just
Yeah,
a
that's
retaining wall?
that's my understanding, yes, yeah. Actually, I think a little bit of the fill that he has put in is gonna have to come out, because I think in some cases he's a little bit closer than,
Oh yeah, definitely on the left, the southwest side, he's going to need to pull it back in some areas.
yeah.
No doubt about it.
Okay, so what's he gonna do with that fill?
He's gonna pull it out of the site, and we're not gonna let him put it back in.
Okay, so,
But where's he gonna put it?
It's up to him where he wants to put it. He wants to go back
To
into the
remove it
site.
from the site,
Yeah.
I mean, take it back to where it came from, I guess, I don't, I don't know,
Dump it on the other lot?
yeah.
okay,
He can use it technically, he can use it in the middle there to keep it completely flat. He can
Yeah,
do
if,
it
I don't know
on
if he
the
needs
side.
to, I don't know if he needs to grade any more inside or not, I don't know.
the one thing he could do is use it to create a berm along Woodvale Drive and then plant the berm.
I think he did talk about grading it so everything would stay on his property and not go to the road.
There is a vegetated berm there right now.
Yeah, on the south corner there is, but on the northerly corner, northeasterly corner, there is not. It's pretty, it slopes away from the road. Yeah, if we can make that,
And, I thought the city rules said that you had to keep all of your drainage on your property. So we now have allowed him on the southwestern side, he is discharging onto the adjacent property, whether it's owned by anybody or not.
I think it's,
Too late.
It's,
no, that isn't what I was gonna say. I was gonna say, I think it's going where it historically has gone anyway,
right.
Right.
from the natural
Right, but
edge
that's-
of the land. but-
Again, that's, so we have somebody, next person comes here and they say, oh, you let him, discharge onto adjacent
Yeah.
property?
But it's also not being treated at all. I mean, it's coming right from a pipe, which ideally, you'd want it to flow through the earth or through some kind of vegetation.
Yeah,
And
Well-
that's something we can ask for him to vegetate is the outfall for those pipes.
yeah, get
Well,
some,
Except
and some,
that
maybe
that's
some,
vegetating into the,
and some riprap or
wetland.
something there to kind of stabilize it.
What are all these FG numbers? Are those elevations or something, or? Oh, yeah, they're in,
I
Blue
think
boxes
those,
there.
I think those are flags. I think it stands for flags. They're the wetland flags, I think, but, again, if we had a
Yeah.
key, we would know what they were.
Yeah,
yeah, they go with the little X's there.
so you'd like to have some vegetation between the retaining wall and the trench.
yes.
I think that's a reasonable request, easy enough to do,
Okay, so I think,
and a slope from the retaining wall to the, yeah, so, okay,
trench.
all right.
I think that if we're gonna, we need to be more specific. What kind of plantings do we want?
That's true.
We don't want poison ivy
Or bittersweet.
or bittersweet.
Or burning bush.
Can, Dean, would it be possible to have them submit something to us before they do it?
Yeah,
Have me review it?
give them have them do a planting schedule with
Natural
Evan's approval.
vegetation.
I've got a
Of
list in my
indigenous.
office of plants and
Right.
their
Good.
hardiness up
Okay.
here.
Yeah, we have a standard list of,
And
Plants
you know
for
what?
that kind of stuff.
Jessica knows. We don't need to tell her. She knows. We have to tell him. I would suggest, and that I am speaking out of experience, because I did this. Don't go the same time every day of the week to do the inspections. Because he knows,
Yeah.
it's 10 o'clock Monday, Evan's coming, I better get everything squared away. And then at
I've been
11
doing that-
o'clock,
I've been doing that with inspections. I've been varying it up so the
okay.
developers don't get complacent.
They don't get on a schedule,
I had, or, yeah.
okay?
It's so sad we have to do.
So,
Well, we're still,
I know.
I mean, we did not accept these plans as a board,
No, I understand.
and I don't think that will change.
No.
So, but, you know, I'm grateful for the fact that we can at least put some more input in.
Like you had on the last memo for the last meeting we came to, you voted not to support it, but you still had me give the recommendations to them.
you know, one of the things we could do in terms of erosion control is be more specific and say he has to use silt socks. And then he could plant the silt socks so that they stay there permanently. They're not just there while he's doing his,
Messing up.
right.
What are they filled with?
They're,
It's a growth medium.
Yeah.
What?
It's a growth medium. It's not pure compost, but it's a medium that you could
So
actually
something you can
slit the
plant.
sod and put plant roots into. I'm sorry, Dean, you.
no, that's right.
It's a good idea.
Because otherwise, he's gonna be taking those out, and then anything that's there, you know, any sediment is just gonna,
Pollute everything else.
so the silt socks will be permanent and planted.
And you,
Sorry.
well, and you might, you probably already know the 7, but I mean, I would, since you mentioned silt socks, I wouldn't go just with a silt sock that's impregnated with seed, because if we're already managing water, you're gonna want them to be a good, at least a gallon size or something, is plantings, yeah.
They could use cranberries, right?
Well, they could use larger bare root or a gallon size of something that's already established roots. I mean, I'm just saying, that's getting too technical for this, but, sorry.
Well, I don't think so. I think, you know,
We have to spell it out.
yeah, I believe that he's kind of bullied his way through this. And, you know, I think the only thing we can do is just, you know, be very specific, so when he doesn't do it, or he does something else, like, there'll be no buildings on this site. There'll be no roads, because he was originally gonna
Oh, yeah.
gonna move the driveway over
Yeah.
to,
Right, yeah, that's,
Get racetrack.
so, you know, he's not gonna do any construction on the old Lot 5. Not gonna do anything there.
That's not the way he's looking at it, though.
No.
Why is that?
On the-
He
the
is
other-
aware he's gonna need a CUP from us to do anything.
He was gonna have a
Like
road
Tina
come
said,
in and
that-
round back.
Reiterated to him.
No, and I think we need to be specific. No, there'll be no construction, no cutting, nothing on Lot 5, the old Lot 5. Because he's talking about making it beautiful with a fountain and blah, 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 blah. No, we're not doing that. That's,
He's gonna have a fountain, well, that changes everything.
Well, he was gonna enlarge that pool and, you know,
yeah.
make it beautiful.
Yeah,
Oh,
so-
I've had that discussion with him.
Make it-
I'm sure
I've
you
told
have.
him, you know,
This is not Disney World.
Conservation Commission and DES's idea of a pool is to leave it in its natural state. That's beautiful.
That's it.
His idea of making it beautiful is not,
Right, goldfish.
yeah, goldfish or koi, yeah,
Koi.
exactly. Yeah.
All right.
So do we have a list of requirements?
Plantings in the slope of between the or the retaining wall and the drainage trench. Plantings in there, something to stabilize the outfall from the water, to treat it, if possible. Use silt socks that can be slid open and then seeded. No?
Wow.
Plantings.
Plantings,
Or can be slid open
Established
and then
plantings.
have established plantings
Can
in
be-
them.
right.
No, any fill that is taken out during this process should not be used on the site.
It should be removed from the site.
Yeah, it needs to be removed from the site.
Yeah, because he's gonna dig this trench to put the stone in, and it's gonna be 2 feet by 2.5 feet, you know, that's,
Well, he can use it to grade from the retaining wall down. He could use it that way.
Yeah.
And then plant it. Do you, is he, has he proposed gravel, to put gravel in where the boats are and all that? Is that,
Yeah, I mean, the material that's there now is basically what it
can't
will be.
remember, is it gravel? Is that what
Yeah,
it is? Okay.
yes.
He had said gravel in the preliminary.
I mean,
He's not planning to add more,
no,
okay.
I don't, I
You
don't
better
think
tell
so.
him.
Let's make a little note of that.
Yeah, no, right.
Evan, I would,
No, I think, if anything, I believe material will be leaving.
Okay.
I would modify that on the silt socks, not to say to be slit open, to be pocket, where
Right.
you can pocket plantings in the, because I have a feeling if
Yeah.
you say slit open, it's gonna go
Mhm.
right down the middle.
Right.
Thanks.
so what are we gonna do about his tree cutting? If we say he can't cut the trees, and a branch falls and somebody gets hurt, we're responsible. Or we could be responsible.
I don't see any problem with cutting the stuff that's right in the middle there. There's a big tree right dead in the middle of that thing.
We can
It's
allow
gonna
him to cut
die.
certain trees, cause when they cut the buffers, like in Paugus Woods or the shoreline, I go out and I take pictures of the trees that are to be cut, and then I state in the letter, yes, we give the okay for these trees to be cut. Nothing else besides these.
Okay, all right, good,
If you do,
good.
then you're violating the
good, okay, all right.
ordinance.
Then we would only allow him to bring it down to grade level, not to remove the,
No stumps, the stump has to
have to
stay,
leave at least part of the stump in the root system. Yep.
okay. Anything else?
He did mention, so will this owner unknown, is that actually now the city of Laconia? Because he had expressed an interest in wanting that parcel.
I
He
know.
was irritated that he wasn't notified that it was for sale or.
Well,
Or available.
yeah, it's another piece of property a little bit further south that he is interested in acquiring, and if he did acquire that property, I'm sure the city would have no issue signing over this quote unknown piece of land either and make them contiguous, but the other piece of property he's interested in is actually 2 lots and has a number of dilapidated structures on it, so I don't think the plan right now is to make the lots available,
To him.
yeah.
So this owner unknown, how much did that lot cost if it was for sale?
I don't think it has any value at all. I mean, I think it's almost 100% wetland.
So,
Yeah, actual wetland.
but,
You know.
but,
I mean, it's been sitting there for 45-plus years, exactly in the state that it's in.
But all our marginalized lands are
all,
looking pretty good to people.
just like
Right.
these 2 lots,
Well,
just like these 2 lots, until,
Right, until now, exactly, yeah, but somebody did own these 2 lots. Whereas
this one is owned by the city.
it's owned by no one, so I guess it's owned by the city, I don't know how you,
The owner unknown
It's
one,
added
if
to our
anybody was
easement
to do
laws.
anything on that lot, they'd have to get DES approval
yeah,
to do anything major, cause it would involve dredging and filling of the wetland.
yeah. It also does not have any road frontage, so it is
So it would
problematic.
be a perfect addition to this.
Yeah, or any of the other property owners in the area that wanted to,
So how far is the adjacent lot with the house on it from left side?
don't quote me, but I would say, 150, maybe 200 feet from his property line. 150 feet easy.
So what's gonna happen if out of chance with this construction, if they start to get water on their property, or that has happened before?
The slopes in the area,
They go-
it's all,
The other way?
it's all up.
Okay,
You know, this unknown lot is basically the low spot,
okay,
and has pretty steep bankings all the way around it.
okay. That's good.
So this is like a bowl.
Yeah, yeah, both of them are. I mean, the one to the northeast doesn't have that steep bankings, but it is a bowl.
Okay.
Okay, is there anything else we want to put on the list of things?
I'm also gonna go over the recording of this tomorrow, so
Okay,
I'll compile a list and put it in a
okay, so this,
first thing in the morning.
okay, so we're gonna give him a planting schedule.
Yes.
Yep.
We're gonna tell him no buildings, and if he puts a building on, we will tell him to remove the building. And I think we should put that in there, because, the city attorney might say, well, what are you gonna do?
Yeah, okay.
But he knows going in. He's gotta have erosion control, silt socks. The fill that he has to excavate to put in his trench and any other work is to be removed from the site. And if he needs to cut any trees, and do we need to stipulate a diameter?
Well,
There's,
If it's
within,
gonna-
within what he's proposing to be the retaining wall, there's probably 4 or 5 good-sized trees. I don't know exactly how big they are, but they're,
Okay,
No tree cutting, just
I
say
think
no.
there's only
No
one
trees.
that's really in the middle of things.
right. He's got a few around the perimeter
Yeah,
that
you
could be a
might be able to
problem.
just leave those guys and
Right,
take out that one that's right plunk in the middle.
yeah.
I think we just tell him that if he has to get approval to remove any of those trees,
Yeah,
Right.
any of the trees that are on
yep,
either, on the entire new Lot 4. No vegetation removal without approval prior to doing any cutting.
And that is in perpetuity, right? As long as he owns it, or?
as long as anybody owns it.
It's as long as the ordinance is in effect.
Yeah.
I just wanted to be sure he understood that it wasn't just for,
So,
You're gonna have to bang it into his head.
so do we also want to tell him that the 50-foot wetland buffer still exists on this site? It's just we're letting him work.
Within-
I think we need to tell him that, so that if he comes up with some
Yeah.
crazy idea,
Yep,
That kind of falls underneath the theme of you need another CUP if you're going to be doing additional
right,
work.
but, yeah, no, we can make that,
But it would be good to.
whatever we can say to make the point more concise.
and I think that the thing that's important is we have this 50-foot buffer, and we're afraid that we're setting a precedent here by allowing him to keep a 10-foot buffer. So if we put in that the 50-foot buffer still exists on your site, I don't know if that's gonna help us in the future.
or hurt us. Yeah.
Well, if you
Well-
want to put a building on it, it certainly would.
That would help us, yeah.
Right, but if, in the future, somebody comes to us and says, I want to work within the wetland buffer, you did it for Mr. Homsey, I want to do the same thing, we can, at least we have told him that the 50-foot buffer still exists.
Yep. Yep.
Okay, what else do we want to put in here? If he wants to do any additional work, he has to come back and get another
That's-
CUP.
I think that covers the
Yep.
majority of it.
Okay, so now we've done that, now we have to are we gonna support this?
I don't think we have to vote. I don't think we're,
You can stick with you do not support it, but you can vote to
Make-
submit recommendations
That's
to
right.
the planning board,
which
additional
we
recommendations.
did before, though.
I think, yeah, I think we stick with that.
We've done that, though.
Yes. So,
Or we have to vote on
Might-
these new
Might
recommendations.
be wise to vote again, to state that you're not supporting, but we're gonna have
New
a
recommendations.
set of
Okay.
recommendations.
With the additional information that Ben submitted,
Right. I think that would be
we make these,
worthwhile doing.
we make these, what are they, suggestions?
recommendations.
Recommendations, these recommendations, and,
With an emphasis on the fact that the 50-foot buffer still does exist.
Yep.
Well, Marnie, it sounds like you just started to make the motion.
I'll make a motion again.
Okay.
Make a motion that we do not support the plan, the building plan, but we do submit new recommendations.
With the additional information provided.
Right.
Okay.
Second.
okay, any additional comments?
Do not, no.
Do you wanna mention the 50-foot buffer in the
It's gonna, it will be in the
It's
memo that
gonna
we
be-
will
will
write
be?
up.
Okay,
It's part of the recommendations.
sounds good.
Okay, any additional comments? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Now it's on to the planning board.
We'll try to do better the next time.
You know,
Hopefully there
it's,
won't be a next time, but
you know, I think,
There will not be a next time if I can help it.
that's the attitude, Evan, that's the attitude.
The first time
yeah.
we met with this guy, it was pouring deluge rain out there. I mean, it was just soaking wet.
Yeah.
I think that there's, it's a combination of things, one of which is we had an applicant who wasn't the easiest to work with, so.
Yeah.
He had his own agenda.
Thank you for
Yeah, thanks.
sharing the information.
Well, trying to be as complete and forthright as possible here.
Well, that's
Good.
great. Thank you.
Thank you.
We appreciate your time.
All right,
All right, you have a good night.
you too. Enjoy the rest of your meeting. Nice to meet you.
You too. Have a good night.
Okay, so the next, do we have any other new business?
No.
Okay, so, do we have a, do you have an agenda you can give Wes?
Do we want to go over the minutes?
Yeah, we have to go over the minutes, and, let's do that next.
Here, I have an agenda.
Okay,
Mike's, okay.
Mike, I don't think it's gonna be showing up.
Good thing Mike wasn't here.
yeah, yeah, well, that's, okay. Okay, so the minutes of September 19th.
I move we accept the minutes of
I
September
got
19th
correction.
as presented. Well, I'm just
Correction.
moving to, and then you
Okay.
can do the correction in the discussion, right? Is that
Right, yeah.
Okay,
I'll second it.
okay, comments?
Correction now?
Yeah,
Yes.
you're on, Dick.
Okay, page 2. About the 6th or 7th line down. It says retaining walls to the edge if the fill should be
Right.
of the fill, is it?
Right.
Good.
I think that's the only one I picked up.
There was another one that I saw.
Okay, so there's another thing here that, Mr. Homsey states that he is tentatively future plans to add a structure on the lot with a two-car garage and living quarters. So I think that, again, you know, in the recommendations that come the next, from these drawings, no structures, no
Yeah,
structures,
that, like he said, we'll make that.
right. Okay,
As far as the minutes go, it's fine.
right, okay.
Under the call to order, the last line before number 2, says there is not audience. So
Well,
you can
there's
change
no
that to
audience.
no audience, or there is not an audience, however you want to do it.
Take out the T.
Okay, any other changes? Comments? No? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, good. I have a question on Miss Roseberry. Do you know when she's gonna start her work?
They are not, they haven't been to planning board yet.
Oh, okay, okay.
We were not able to notify of others in time,
Mm.
due to a lack of envelopes.
Of what?
Envelopes that we send out at butters notices.
You sent the abutters notices?
We send them.
Really?
Pay for the postage, we put the letters together and we send it out.
I had to notify like 120 abutters when I did my, and I had to pay for them.
Yeah, I thought it was the
Was that before Kalina?
Yeah, no, it wasn't before Kalina.
So-
Nothing's before Kalina.
I don't know.
So,
Not even the dinosaurs.
so no, let me ask you, so is that to assure that because ordinarily that would fall on the developer or an applicant,
Yeah, I think I'm not involved in that process, but
Okay, all right.
but to be sure that it was thoroughly done.
make sure it's done
And
properly.
there's no legal, so it's probably worth it.
So what's the definition of a butter?
Someone who's adjacent to your property,
But not across
Or-
the road, but not across the road.
no, if they are across the road, if they're across the road or
Yeah, you can
water
cross
body.
roads.
Okay.
Yeah.
Across the road, or, I'm sorry.
Water body.
So she has to go all the way to the others, she has to go over to Sanperton?
I think so. It might be, I think it might be a certain feet across the water.
Okay, anyway, okay.
Yep.
All right, thank you. All right,
I might be wrong, Dean.
that's okay,
I don't usually do a butters, so
that's okay.
That's okay.
Yeah.
I know it's definitely across the road.
Okay, so, no other new business, old business?
I
Conservation
still need-
easement.
I still need volunteers for easement walks. I'm gonna do Tardif and, Pearly.
I meant to look to see if I have the old form, but could you email me the form?
Yeah, I can send it to you.
Yeah, thank you.
You're gonna do Tardif and who?
Pearly.
Okay, I don't think that, okay. So, so we still have, Harrington?
I sent everybody an email.
Yeah,
Right,
Now's the time.
yeah, I know.
It's nice and low.
Yep.
Harrington, we have to do
Like walk
over,
there by myself.
White Oaks Road.
you know what? I think we should do White Oaks Road before,
Get these rains and it gets like a flush, I don't wanna.
I mean, Harrington's on White Oaks Road, but I think we should do Eileen's before we take it. Because one of the things that the city council asked me the last time was,
Okay. Do you wanna try and schedule them on the same day?
sure,
Cause I think Harrington, he should be right down the road from her.
oh, yeah, he is.
Alright, so we have Eager Island, that's what Lisa's doing. Pearly, that's me. Tardif is also me. We have the Taylor Home Conservation Easement. Fuller, located next to Fred Fuller, Oil, Bonham, Wilkins, Puleo, Puleo,
Pull
is that right? Starland and Aqua.
Aqua's part mountain goat.
Mm-hmm. Wear your hiking boots.
Hiking boots. Okay, so what we have to do is we have conservation easements that different parties have donated or the city has purchased. And we have to, walk them once a year, particularly the boundaries, to make sure nobody's dumped or discarded cars or whatever. So that's part of our maintenance for conservation easements. So you have to notify Bob Harrington, he'll want to do this. And the last time, anyway, okay, anyway. that's-
He knows where it all is, too.
Yep, he does. It's not his first rodeo. Okay. So if anybody can do any of those easement walks, I'll do Harrington and Eileen. But I could probably do some other ones too.
I'd love to be able to shadow somebody if
Sure,
it could fit into my schedule as well.
yeah. Okay. So, what's your schedule? When do you have off?
All day Monday is really the only day I have off. But there are other periods of time where I could make something work, but.
Okay, okay. If we did the ones on White Oaks Road, that would be Harrington and Eileen, that would take,
That's a day.
that's a day. So we could do that on a Monday?
Sure.
If it doesn't rain or snow or,
Rain or snow.
really.
Dean, can we do Eileen's?
If,
With
with
someone who
permission,
isn't-
with permission from her?
No, I'm just saying, since he's not really part of the commission, he wasn't part of the non-public session.
Mhm.
We're trying to keep that under wraps.
We'll cut his tongue out.
Recording.
No. That's probably a good point. So we could do Harrington
We
and
can definitely do Harrington,
do Harrington in the morning and then,
see if like I said, tell me when and I can usually make time as long as it's not during a TRC on Wednesday.
your TRCs are all Wednesday.
They're all on, yep, all on every one of them's on Wednesdays
Okay.
usually from 10 to 11.
Okay,
So other than that, just tell me when you should be free and I can move my schedule around for anybody who would like to volunteer.
all right, I'll check my schedule for Monday and then maybe we can, see if Bob Harrington will let us,
Run around in his backyard. Sure.
he'll go with us, we know that.
Yeah, I've got his contact information downstairs, so I can call him or email him tomorrow.
Okay, all right, good.
He still hasn't sold that land, right?
He can't.
He can't? Because I think last time we talked about his land, he was looking for a buyer. I
I
thought,
don't think he can sell it. I think that easement belongs to the city.
the easement is in perpetuity on the land, whoever owns it. He can sell the land.
Oh, I got
Our
you.
easement still stays there.
Okay, all right, okay. Okay. So let's check on Monday and see if we can, okay, Good.
I can do a couple of, if for some reason everyone, you're jam-packed. I know, Deb, you're
Yeah.
working, you're teaching.
Yeah, I just don't.
So, I can do some of these, I can probably do couple of the privately owned ones by myself, just meet the landowner there.
Okay.
Cause I've got the maps downstairs in my office, so.
okay.
Take your GPS with you, so you don't get lost.
Okay. Anything else? Any other old business?
No, I was jumping ahead to liaison, I'm sorry.
Okay,
I will
so liaison.
So tomorrow at 1 PM at the Lakes Region Community College is the next meeting of the Lake Shore Park Redevelopment Committee
1 PM at LRCC.
at the
Okay,
Lakes Region Community College.
okay.
I don't know if you've been following that. in the
Really? 1
paper at all.
o'clock?
1 o'clock. October 29th, so Monday, the 29th, from 5:30 to 7. You can meet the Belknap County candidates at the Hewitt Technical Center. Just mentioning it in connection with the Lake Shore Park redevelopment thing, if you wanted to put any. Then I had handed out, the New Hampshire Association of Conservation Commissions annual meeting is November 3rd. Pembroke,
Right,
Did everybody get my email about that?
I don't
yeah,
know.
we did, I did, about early registration.
Yep.
It was last Friday.
If you sign up, using your own funds, you can just submit a voucher back to us and the city will reimburse you.
So wait, this is the New Hampshire,
Association of Conservation Commissions, Barbara Richter.
The big one in
One that
Pembroke.
we, yeah. Oh, so it's a week from Saturday.
I guess so, yes. I handed out 2 event programs. The one on November 5th, Monday, November 5th, from 2 to 5 at the Bean Conference Center is, it's actually Lakes Region Planning Commission working with NUMOA, which is the Northeast, not gonna go into it, but anyway, I can't quite remember. This is them working on kind of the food waste, food recovery and waste reduction, kind of municipality-wide, business-wide, that's what Lakes Region Planning Commission is looking at. So if you see the bullets there, making connection with others to increase food recovery and donation, find out what can and cannot be donated, learn about liability protections, tax deductions, alternatives to disposing of food. I guess there's some restrictions on feeding animals, which, I mean, that the state has, and there's all kinds of things there that, so anyway, that's there. And then, November 15th, from 9 to 11 at the Boys and Girls Club in Laconia, there's a meeting, to help identify partners and resources to support the Laconia Beacon Community Initiative, which, I wrote a grant to Farm to School, and Laconia was one of the 3 or 4 communities selected this year to be a beacon community. So we're working with the after-school program, and we're trying to gather resources and connections and to help promote local foods, nutrition, healthy lifestyles with the kids in the after-school programs. So in other words, the teachers don't have to run the programs. We're looking for people to be identified as resources to help run programs. And I had sent it out like the Master Gardeners, and I think Ruth Smith who's now the new statewide coordinator of Master Gardeners, has put it out there and stuff. So, but this would be wonderful if you felt you had skills you could contribute, or just wanted to see who else was involved. And both of these are free. That's what I have, thank you.
And they, the Boys and Girls Club offers dinner to their kiddos every night. So that would be a great connection.
Yeah, and if you don't know, I'm sorry, Wade, is that right?
Wes.
So Laconia, they have had, and I think still do, although it's somewhat underreported now, very high free and reduced lunch programs. Like, you know, I think it was Woodland Heights
70%.
was like 70%, and the high school was 50%, and so it's an issue. And the food waste side of it is we were interested in getting the kids to like do a food waste audit in their cafeteria and composting and all that within the school.
I'd be interested in that. I used to work for the UNH compost program.
Great. So if you can take both of these and kind of hand them down there. And we do ask that you register to go if you can, just so we have a sense of
Of
who's
course.
coming. Yeah,
Thank you.
thanks.
I'll also have that stuff up on the website in case you misplaced that or something.
Okay,
Should be
great.
able to come.
and
I
I said
better
to,
check and
I've
see.
said this before, that if I was homeless
I'm
and
not
I
sure
needed a
about this
meal,
one.
I would go to the middle school right after lunch. There is food extraordinaire in there.
Uncomfortable for you to do, or?
In
Thanks for
fact,
the
I'm
tip.
still, I'm
Thanks for the
still
tip,
considering,
Gene.
what?
And it's good food. It's
I'm
good
still
food.
considering it.
I'll write down that you're coming.
Thanks for the tip.
I'm
No, it was-
absolutely
it was
sure I
just-
can do this. Okay.
You know, you just never know, you
It's
know?
great food,
If
too.
I'm passing through the area and, you know, I missed lunch that day and.
Exactly
That's it.
sure what the date is.
Well, if you want to substitute, you get a free lunch.
You do?
Yes.
I would be.
I never
willing.
got oh, that's because I wasn't substitute. Okay, anyway.
We gotta go
Okay,
get
so,
Still should have had a free lunch for that.
that was-
And, you know,
okay,
the
so,
hot lunch program,
um,
that alone has
the,
opened my eyes to.
the other, committee is the milfoil, and that's, all the milfoil work has been completed. And, there is I would say that Laconia was underrepresented when it comes to doing work on, Lake Winnispam. We probably have the largest, shorefront, and we have the least participation.
What do you
So
mean
I know that,
by
yeah.
what do you mean?
what?
What do you mean by participation?
We don't have weed watchers. I think maybe there are a couple of people that do weed watching. We don't do any water sampling. It's all done by other communities. So,
We have a weed watchers line item
I know,
that sits there.
we don't spend the
We don't
money.
use it 'cause we don't really have citizens volunteering to.
Do we have enough in there to buy a boat? Do we have enough in there to buy a boat?
It's a rowboat, and it's not
gonna say,
very
you want it
big,
to
and it's
float
got
or
2
not?
holes in it, so the water can come in and go out. So, anyway,
I ran into Rich Tilton the other day, and he did say that he was still recruiting businesses along the lake, and
Good.
he's got Watermark on board. I can't remember.
Watermark, Thurston,
Yeah, I can't remember all the.
Spinnaker. They're gonna meet eventually to go over the whole situation. I asked him to notify me when they do that so I can participate. They've got a 501c3
Right.
up and running, which then they're gonna use to donate money to us to help with combating the milfoil. I've also submitted all our work invoices to him, and he has submitted it to Amy Smagula at DES as the Laconia representative for our grant money for next year, or for the reimbursement for all our work. So that's been done. When New England Milfoil finishes up their work, or if
they're
they
not
have-
done, they're not
they-
done yet?
I think they were gonna finish up either this week or the
Okay.
next. I need to look. It was
Okay.
either a week or two ago, and Rich contacted me. When they finish up their work, we just submit that invoice to DES.
Okay.
And Amy will then reimburse us for that one too. Other than that, back to square one, with just applying for the grant money and doing everything, and then
I thought Rich said he was already, submitted a grant application for next year. Did he say that?
I don't think he told me that. He might have said that in an email a while ago, and it's just escaped me. But I'll look through my emails again.
Okay.
He is authorized to do that as part of our subcommittee. So,
right.
so that's where we are with that right now.
Okay. All right, anything else?
Permits.
I'm a little short on ink.
So I was contacted by Krista Larson, who is the Assistant Director of DPW. And she is the liaison for the city with Eversource and the construction that's going on now at the Messer Street boat ramp. So originally, 2 weeks ago, I was concerned because I knew there was gonna be a bass fishing tournament there. October 10th. It was like that last Saturday. So I went down and looked around, and there was only going to be 4 boats, so they were going to be able to go in and out without a problem. I don't know if they could park all their trailers there. They may have had to park around the corner, but so she got a hold of me because she had heard through Helena that I was concerned about the boat access. Then she called me yesterday to tell me that Eversource is very concerned with the amount of public traffic that has been down there using the parking lot? I mean, people, you know, always go down there and park and have lunch or whatever, but there's so much construction down there, they're actually doubling the size of that power station.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's really taken up the whole area. So they would like to shut that area off to the public, shut down the ramp. And she wondered if we saw any.
Permanently?
No, while they're
Oh, just
working,
while they're
but it
constructing,
is, it is a, at least a 6-month project.
They're
So-
gonna be working through the winter, I know,
Right.
think.
So, but I told her I would bring it up to you all and see if you guys had any qualms about it. My only concern was access to the porta potties for people using the WOW Trail. But this time of year, it's mine, sorry. This time of year, they, Parks and Rec typically take the porta potty out of there. So, and I know there will be one left there, at least one left there for their workmen. You know, it's an issue, even if they fence that whole property off, people will try to get in there and use the porta potty or do something. There's a lot of traffic through there, a lot of foot traffic. And I told her that,
But that's Eversource's issue, not ours.
no, but it's, I mean, they wanted to make sure that it was all right to shut down the ramp. I said, well, they can't use the ramp right now anyway with the drawdown.
Yep.
Right. You can keep-
Right.
Go halfway
And,
across the lake.
The other issue that I had when I was down there is they had wonderful silt socks all around the perimeter, except at the top of the boat ramp.
That was to allow for that temporary access for the public up until now.
But my question was, okay, that's fine, but why not at least have it there while they're working? I mean, if a boat had come, they could easily move it, but at least that would have been, so anyway, she said she was gonna take care of that now that that was closed. And I forgot to look today to see if they had done
I
that.
can check tomorrow. I can
Yeah.
take a ride out tomorrow and look at it.
You know, it might not be a bad idea to disrupt use of it, because I'll be honest with you, I've had the same idea myself to go down there, like at lunch or when I only had 10 minutes and I was going somewhere, and I kind of pulled in and thought, I shouldn't be here.
Yeah, it's really a large construction site now.
Well-
They're doubling it, but that little pad off to the side is their mobile station.
That's not what I meant.
The other,
I
yeah,
was talking about undesirable.
Right.
I just
Oh.
meant, it might be a good thing to break that pattern for
Right.
6 months.
right. I did notice when I was down there though too, that 2 of our blueberry bushes had been taken out next to the ramp, which maybe they needed access for an equipment, I don't know, but
I didn't know it
that
was
was
deliberate.
kind
Well-
of distressing.
So, don't we have money in the budget that we could replant them
Yeah.
next year?
Well, I think that's something that we talked to Eversource about. They
Yeah.
should be more than willing to revegetate.
They are very community involved ever
Right.
since they've had complications in the
Yeah.
past with
Right.
communities. Ever since that, they've been very, very,
Everything I've ever asked them about that ramp, they've taken care of.
Especially after they found out they owned it.
Yes.
but they're very hands-on in helping communities that they
Right.
work with.
Right.
From what I've seen.
Yeah, they are.
Was Crystal looking like for a vote from us, or just a
No. I
consensus?
told her, I said, that I would bring it up at the meeting tonight. I said, I don't see any issue with it. I told her, go ahead and tell them that was fine. If it's something that came up tonight, I would let them know. But,
Water's gonna freeze soon anyways.
well, but, and people would
Oh, yeah.
have access there for, snowmobiles or whatever too, so.
Oh, yeah. I didn't
I know, but
think
it's,
of that. I don't usually associate a boat ramp with. Oh.
Well, that's why they put a lot of the bob houses out onto the lake too. so,
right.
Yep.
so,
Although I would be leery because of the river right there.
Yeah, quite a bit of
Yeah.
current right in that area.
Right, right. So, but I mean, do you go down and check their site? Or have you?
I haven't, because they didn't apply for a wetlands CUP from us. It's usually, those are the ones that I focus on. I do
So who
these.
keeps them in line?
It's usually, since that's DES's, all those
So-
impacts they're making are DES is shoreline permits.
Right.
And I don't think
So they're the
DES
ones that would come in,
They're the ones who would come in if there was someone who was complaining about something, they'd be the ones to go look at
but
it.
they're not gonna check it unless there's a complaint?
I don't think they have the manpower, but I can stop by and look.
I'm just gonna real quick, cause I know we wanna get out of here, but, so, I'm on the dog park, the Lizama Family Happy Tales Dog Park Committee, I'm one of the directors. Dog park's off Growth Road. So the park's open, and people are loving it, and, but one of the things I've noticed is, and it's not really invasive species, right, they've got honey locust, locust is starting to come in the dog runs, and I'm gonna clip that out and stuff, but I'm just thinking, there's a lot of land there that, they cleared, and so we threw some grass seed down, and cause we're just getting going on this. I envision that there may be an opportunity for partnership with the conservation, I haven't really talked to the dog park board about it, but I'm just saying, I have volunteered for now to help control invasive species, but there may be an opportunity to partner, to help manage, not the dog runs, not the running of that at all, but the other area, cause
Surrounding.
it's city land.
Right.
Just throwing it out there.
That would be a good training ground for,
It might be, yeah.
That would
Or
be a
some-
good place for invasive species, if there is any, or
I bet there are. There,
And they've opened it up, so it's even
That
more.
Whoa,
would-
it's
that
gonna
would
be
a good
worse.
place to have maybe a workshop or two
Right.
for anyone who's interested
there's
in
bittersweet back there
education
somewhere.
on this is what
Yep.
bittersweet looks like, or this is what burning bush looks like.
So anyway, I'll keep my eye out, but I'm just letting you know. Okay, I'm done.
yeah, I've heard good things, and
About the dog park.
yeah, and it's surprising how many people will drive out there too.
Yeah, it's on Facebook too, if you just wanna, people love posting pictures of their pups, their
Yeah.
friends, so.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else
I'd like to hear from our guest here.
from Wes?
Yeah.
Okay, so Wes, you wanna tell us what you do, what you've done?
Yeah, so I graduated from UNH in 2011 with a degree in environmental conservation, minor in forestry and sustainability. I've worked with some watersheds before. I worked up in the Adirondacks with Paul Smith's College, and that was a lot of invasive species work, preventative, trying to keep it out of the lakes, and some even removing it from the lakes. A lot of community outreach out there. When I was at UNH, I had mentioned that I was part of the compost program, and we did almost a ton of compost every day just because of the size of the dining halls.
Wow.
So did a lot with that, and I've kind of it's been a little bit of time since I've worked in the environmental field. Done a little bit of everything since I was up in the Adirondacks. And currently I work at the wellness complex. I'm a fitness trainer and teach swimming and
Where's that?
do a lot of everything up there.
Where is it?
Awesome.
It's right across
The
from
old Y.
the fire station.
Oh,
Old
oh,
Y.
The old
okay. Yeah,
Laconia
okay.
Athletic and Swim Club.
Okay, got it.
That's a quick overview. I've been in this area for about 18 months now. Grew up in New Hampshire and Henniker, so.
Nice.
You interested in joining this bunch?
I am, yeah.
Good.
Awesome. Evan's like, yes.
So, okay, so,
And I love hearing about these opportunities, such as the
Stuff.
farm to school, and yeah, I would like to become more involved in the community. So
So what
feel
you're,
free to.
what you're gonna do is, Evan, do you give him the paperwork that he has
He
to?
gets it from Nancy.
Okay,
I think when he applies, he has to meet with Dean. The same thing he does with
not
planning.
with me, with,
Not with this
Dean.
Dean, but with the planning director, my boss.
Yep.
Meet with him, kind of go over what it is, and then I think gets the paperwork from Nancy,
In the
and then
tax collector's office, is that where her office is? No.
No.
she's the
Scott Myers.
she's,
Yeah, she's Scott's secretary.
So the office beyond that,
All the way down at the end of the hallway.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if you go down the main
I should-
hallway, it's way down on the left.
So give it to me step by step. I gotta meet Dean first.
Okay, so you know what we'll do? I'll pick you up on Monday, and we'll come here,
Okay.
and you'll meet Dean, and then go
Perfect.
to Nancy, then we'll go do Harrington.
Perfect.
Go to Nancy first, because I've never. He'll be the first person that's joined since I started, so I haven't done this process before. I go to Nancy first, and she'll point you where to go with that.
Right.
Because she might just have him fill out the paperwork to apply for
And-
And
be on
then,
the
They'll do a
commission.
background
Yeah.
check and all of
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
So you fill out the paperwork, it's submitted to, probably to Scott Myers, who's the city manager. And then, you go before the city council, and the city council ask you what you wanna do and why you wanna do it. And sometimes they ask no questions, and sometimes they'll
Be
ask
silly.
you lots of questions. Some people have been asked more questions. They just, I think they,
Depends on who's on the council.
yeah, it depends on their mood.
Lately, it's been pretty smooth for most of
But
us.
I don't think that they, I don't think they turn anybody down.
We have an opening anyway.
Yes,
Yeah, we
they're not
do.
gonna, yeah, they won't turn it.
and we will come the same
We
night
will
they're gonna
support you.
interview, we'll come with you.
We will support you.
Yeah.
I would appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's goes to Nancy, does the paperwork, then he meets with Dean, since Dean oversees planning board, zoning board, and you guys. Then he goes to city council, does everything, and then gets sworn in.
Right, you get sworn in,
I
and
think I
then,
was ever interviewed by anyone, just the city council.
That's weird.
Yeah.
Dean's had like all the new planning board members come in to meet
Really?
him.
Maybe
Yeah.
planning board,
Of course, it's been a long time.
yeah.
I'm just thinking because we're all under direction by him, so
Yeah.
responsible for every board.
okay. All right, anyway, I'll pick you up on Monday, we'll go do it, and then we'll get Evan, and we'll go for a walk in the woods.
Evan, do you want these back?
I'll get them afterwards, Mike.
Another thing, in the minutes there was mentioned a liaison person with the planning board. Anything come of that?
I'm thinking Dean's still trying to get them to get into gear to
Right.
get someone chosen.
Is this yours?
I think the planning board is in a little bit of flux, so as soon as they get, and they're starting to gel now, my understanding. And,
So I do have one staff report.
oh, you have a staff report?
I'm trying to get the stormwater ordinance that Luke and Shanna both left behind
Okay,
into a working editable format
okay,
that we can have in a Word format.
okay.
I would like to see if we can get some focus back on that again and try and get that
Good, good,
approved like we did the 30-foot stream buffer.
right, okay,
Because that would give our department a lot more ways to help people in the city with some of their problems.
right, okay. I think that's a good idea. Especially with, we're not supposed to talk about climate change, the amount of precipitation we could be getting. So,
So,
good,
so I'm
that's great.
working on getting that 16-page, retyping the entirety of that 16-page document.
Okay.
Back up again, so I can submit it with the changes that Luke and Shanna had written down.
Okay,
There's probably a couple more that I'd like for you guys to look over.
Right.
Before we give it to, I send it to Dean, have him look it over, and then send it to city council,
okay,
or planning board, and then to city council.
Right.
So,
good, that'd be great.
other than that, I haven't sent out any letters or violations or anything, so.
Wow, you're slacking.
Okay, anybody have anything else?
Nope, move to adjourn.
Second.
Any discussion?
Oh, Dean, you guys did approve the minutes for the last meeting, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay,
So,
Back and listen to your
okay,
tape.
so all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Thanks for coming,
Good.
Wes.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you
Getting
for
a
having
chance to
me.
meet.
gonna
meet
be
you all.
nice to have.
Hopefully, I'll see you in the future.
This is a lifetime appointment, by the way. Maybe longer.
Can't move out of town. Yeah, okay.
That's it.
It's,
Yeah, you gotta
what,
be a
is it
city
3
resident,
years
that's the other thing.
typically?
Yep.
Three.
Yeah, I think it's 3 years.
Dick, do you wanna take these or?
Welcome back, Marnie. Thank you.
I'll just shred them.
I bet.
And I
Love
think
your
these are extra
mittens.
for you.
Oh, I
Yeah,
know,
I'll
I'm
have
just,
these
In the office.
they aren't very warm though, they're just cotton.
They're just for show.
I've
Oh.
gotta dig out my nice woolly ones.
anything on TV.
Oh,